Welcome to Halloween.
It only took, over 2 years for me to finally make a Halloween episode, but hey, here we are. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of horror games,
I might have to do it all again.
I always like to play one around this time of year to really get into the mood for fall. When I was trying to think of a game to talk about, something classic like Silent Hill 2 or Eternal Darkness or something, I realized that I wanted to play something a little different. After exploring the deepest, darkest, and most spiderweb infested corners of Google, I came across a first-person Silent Hill fan game made on the Source engine. That just happened to be the right combination of words that I was looking for. So, in the spirit of the season, let's dive into Alchemilla. Alchemilla? Which one is it? So I don't think I have to tell you guys that the Silent Hill franchise has some of the best survival horror games of all time. Let's be honest though, the more recent Silent Hill games have been, garbage. You've got Downpour, Homecoming, Orphan, which I didn't even know existed, and of course the infamous HD collection, all garbage. With the one exception being Shattered Memories, which is actually pretty good. With the franchise being in such despair for so long, it was really only a matter of time until fans of the series started learning to program and build games of their own. There are several mods out there for games like Fallout New Vegas and Left 4 Dead that add a certain Silent Hill vibe.
Reloading!
But Alchemilla stood out to me as one that goes an extra step further. Rather than adding to an existing game or making something akin to a Best of Silent Hill highlight reel, Alchemilla is, in a lot of ways, a complete Silent Hill game. In Alchemilla, you play as Norman Wexler. In the very first note you pick up in the game, you discover that Norman is moving away to a different town called Ashfield. But he doesn't want to sell his house in Silent Hill, and he has this strange feeling that he's forgetting something. After wandering around the house a bit, you can head out into the yard for some of that fresh, foggy air. Once you try to leave the yard, though...
What the hell's going on here?
After getting a fly-through of just some of the grotesque imagery, you wake up right outside the doors to Alchemilla Hospital. The bulk of the game is spent exploring and solving puzzles in the hospital, the mall, and the apartments, with a few spots in between where you can explore the town. The puzzles are challenging, and since there's no inventory system to hold on to things like notes and items, you will definitely need a pen and some paper. This leads me into the game's biggest flaw. You have the exploration and the puzzle solving, and that's it. That's all you do. There's no combat, and aside from some brief appearances by the trademark nurses, there are no enemies present. This lack of enemies got me thinking, can a horror game really be scary if the player isn't under some sort of threat? Think of any horror game you've played. Even the really bad ones. There's always something hanging over you that threatens to end your game, or at the very least give you a jump scare. A game can at least try to make things unsettling by using imagery, sound, and maybe even by throwing us into the uncanny valley. But if there's no danger, then the fight or flight reaction goes entirely out the window, especially if you know beforehand that the game has no combat. Sure, games like Amnesia don't have combat either, but there is always the threat of the monsters potentially being around that next corner. Does Alchemilla succeed in creating horror without any threat? I'll be honest and say, no, it doesn't. The lack of enemies does hinder the game quite a bit. Sure, there were times when an odd sound would get to me, but any sense of dread was shaken off almost immediately because I knew nothing was going to happen. Does that make Alchemilla a bad game? No, not at all. Like I said, the puzzles are challenging, if a bit convoluted at times, plus it really does nail the Silent Hill atmosphere, and seeing it from a first-person perspective adds a lot to the feeling of dread that goes along with it. At times, I felt like there would be something standing behind me when I turned around, or there would be something hiding around the next corner. The change in perspective also helped emphasize just how desolate and lonely the town is. I would almost recommend playing this game based on the first-person perspective alone. It was really interesting to see Silent Hill in a new way, but I also recommend it based on the strength of the puzzles and the fact that it's only going to last you a handful of hours at the most. Besides, let's be honest here, it's probably the closest we're going to get to another Silent Hill game, what with Konami being, you know, Konami. Thank you guys so much for watching this new video. If you have any thoughts on whether a horror game can really be scary without a threat, please post them in the comments down below. I'd love to get your opinions on the matter and, who knows, maybe even revisit the topic in the future. In the meantime, you guys know the drill about the Twitter page and all that, and here's a couple of links to some other videos if you're interested. You guys know how all that works. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you later.